Welcome to another version of Tool versus Tool, another edition where we go over the most cost-effective or even free tools, marketing tools for anybody, but especially small businesses to do all kinds of things. With us, as usual, is Randy Gerson and Chris Eon, who are the stars of Marketing Mondays, which you'll see at EvoNexus, both in San Diego and up at Irvine every week. And they're incredibly popular. You can get them on meetup.com, part of the Vine meetups. Challenge is there's so much material to go over. They don't have time to dig into the tools down to the nitty gritty. And now we do. So we spend 20 to 30 minutes going over specific tools. So Randy and Chris, what are we going over this week?
Today we're going to be going through email deliverability. Specifically, there are two tools that can help you determine whether or not your emails are not just getting delivered to an individual, but rather if they're getting delivered to an inbox, which can be a little bit of a challenge. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to talk a little bit about email deliverability, and then Randy and I will go into the tools.
Yeah, and while Chris is doing that, let me explain why this is so important. As Chris mentioned, that second part of his sentence is getting into the inbox. This is such a key for marketers because you could have a great list, but if you're not getting into the inbox and you're getting spammed a lot or even blocked, you're going to get diminishing results. So it's really important before you even launch a campaign to figure out what your deliverability is. And so that's why Chris and I decided to talk about this topic today, because we get asked this quite a bit when we talk about email marketing in general, or even other marketing where you're collecting emails and then using those to send out over time, both B2B and B2C.
So a lot of people assume that if you put your email into an email list like MailChimp or something like that, or in the CRMs that sends that email, all that email is going out. Well, even if the emails are accurate, which they are not, you're saying all the email doesn't always go where you suppose it's going to go.
Right. As a matter of fact, almost all email tools will tell you, quote unquote, the deliverability of the email. The reality is that number is not really true. All that number is telling you is whether or not the email that you sent bounced, meaning that it bounced because the email address is no good, or the person has an out of office reply or something like that. But what it did not tell you is that if it did not bounce, did the email actually get delivered to the inbox? And that's because the email services don't even know if it got delivered to the inbox. So, and that's the reason why, can you see my screen? It says the dark side of email deliverability.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's just a couple of things right here. And this document here is provided by Experian. Experian, of course, as many of you know, is the largest, one of the largest data companies in the world, but it also is an email deliverability and email servicing company, if you will. So one of the documents they put out here is they said, look, in the last 12 months, 61% of organizations have experienced an event that could have damaged their sender reputation. That means that for some reason or another, a company had a negative hit by an ISP like Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, AOL, whatever, that prevented their emails from getting delivered to their end users. Okay? So that's actually pretty big, especially considering that email still happens to be one of the highest ROIs of any marketing method you can have to date. So if you have a negative hit on your reputation on your email, that can have a negative hit on your ROI. So, and we'll go through what your reputation means here in a second. So what are the top issues affecting your reputation, your sender reputation? Number one, the volume of emails that you send out. Now keep in mind, you could still send out 1,000 emails and still have a negative hit on your reputation. But if you're sending 4 million emails a day, that means you're going to be more scrutinized by Google and Yahoo and the others. The number of complaints that you have about your emails, meaning people clicking on the spam button in Google or AOL or whatever. I still say AOL because you would be shocked at how many people still have AOL addresses. But the number of people that click on the spam button will affect your reputation. There are also something called spam traps as well as blacklists. Spam traps are, I'm going to give you the classic case that a lot of startups don't know about. If you go to an event, let's say you're doing a trade show somewhere, and that trade show says, I'm going to give you the list of attendees, but you can only email them once. And you say, no problem, and you take the list of attendees and you email that list. And then for some reason you decide, well, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and email it a second time. The conference may have what's called a spam trap, and that is an email address that if you email that address more than once, it will alert the ISP that this is a spam list, and it will hurt your reputation. Okay, so those are spam traps. Blacklists are websites out there that track the number of spam complaints against, or just any kind of complaint against a company. And we'll put you on a list if there's a lot of complaints. Okay. So
Chris,
we talked about.
Can I add a little something to that, Chris, real quickly? So
Sure.
On the spam traps, there's actually another area where you can get trapped for spam. So the startup companies or companies that are in seed round, a little more advanced, that are buying lists. So this is not lists that you're capturing. And Chris mentioned like a trade show, you could purchase a list, but usually they'll send it out for you. But if you go to like an Info USA, which we've shared before, and you get an email match list to a terrestrial list, like basically a physical address, and you're buying that for a one-time use, and you multiple use the email piece of it because you didn't multiple buy it, they will spam trap you the same exact way. They will have seeds on that email list. And what can happen, not only when you get spam trapped, but if you also on top of that have a pretty shifty offer, and again, it's how you craft your offer, you could get by your bounces, hard bounces and everything else combined, there's a couple factors, spam, hard bounce rates, inaccurate addresses, which are part of hard bounce. You could get blacklisted, and I want to iterate this again. A blacklist isn't one list, so all the IPs share blacklist, and once you get on one, usually you'll be migrated over to multiple blacklists from a single offense. And both Chris and I have run into this personally with companies.
Yep.
And the best thing about a blacklist is it's kind of like a lawsuit. The one lawsuit you want to get into is the one you never have. So it's the same with blacklist. You just want to prevent yourself from getting on a blacklist in the first place because it's a pain. It's like cleaning up your credit file. It's a pain in the butt to get yourself off a blacklist. And then for quite a while, you're going to be on what we call the gray list. They're going to be watching what you're doing for a while because you could get right back on a blacklist if you don't clean it up. So, Chris, I just thought I'd mention that because that's really important for startup companies as they grow.
Absolutely. And if you get hit hard right away early on with a blacklist, that's not a good way to start your company, you know. The next one is content. So again, sender reputation, volume, complaints, spam tracks, blacklists, the content, what you say in it, as well as the engagement with your email, opens, clicks, and unsubscribes. So what can you do? There are a few things you can do. There are 3 things mentioned in this infographic. Number one is use an email validation service. We're going to talk about a little bit about that today and show you something that you can do for free. Remove inactive subscribers from your email list. By doing that, you increase this engagement and therefore increase your reputation. And then the last one is monitor your sender reputation score. I'm going to show you how you can do that again for free. Okay, so with that said, there are 2 tools. Number one, we're going to look at mail-tester.com, and this tests the spamminess of your emails. And number 2, we're going to go look at the return path SenderScore. Let's start with mail-tester.com, and you can see the URL right here, mail-tester.com. So what you do is you simply grab this email address that's found in the middle of the website right here, okay? and you want to place it in whatever email you want to test. So I'm going to go over to Randy and I's Green Rope account. And we sent out this email last week or 2 weeks ago, and I'm just going to test this email. So right here in this section, it says send a test message. I'm going to paste that email address that I got from from Mail-tester, right? And I'm going to send a test. So it's going to send the test. It's going to take just a few seconds to send that test. Then I go back over to this. After this email has been fully sent, which it looks like it's still sending, once it's fully sent, I click on check your score. It's that simple, right? So it's still sending for some reason.
By the way, for those of you from Hawaii that are listening, when we're talking about spamminess, we're not talking about that stuff in the can that tastes good with eggs and stuff in the frying pan. So I thought I'd just mention that for those who love the spam.
You know what?
Yeah, it's still sending. It's a big list we got in here, Chris.
It's not. I think it's just I'm running so many different services on my. Yeah, you know, with the what do you call it? The webinar thing as well.
Sure.
See, it usually doesn't take that long, but with the webinar thing on top. Yeah, the webinar jam takes some resources. Let's try it again. I'm going to try plugging it right here. Let's see if this works. Send. If not, I have another one open right here. I can plug it in here. Send.
You know what, Chris is firing this up. One thing I'll mention is if you're building, Chris and I have a session on Marketing Mondays, those you remember. We'll talk about building your own list. And in that process, you're hand typing email addresses in, whether that's from business cards you collected at a trade show, and your sales reps enter it in a CRM for you as a startup, or you're entering them yourself in Excel or in your Constant Contact or MailChimp, is you have to be really careful of typos as well. So you really want to check your list, because that's what Chris was talking about, getting your score. We'll show that in a minute. You can actually find the typos that you typed in, because it does happen.
Okay, so I took one that I knew that from this account. It's not Randy's and I's account. It's another one right here. And what I purposely wanted to show you one with a bad score. So what happens is it says, consider yourself lucky if your email goes to an inbox. Gave us 4 out of 10, right? And what it does is it breaks it down by who it's from, spam assassin, whether or not they like you. Usually that's technical. And then you are not allowed to use one of your sender's email addresses. So what this is it specifically said right here that there's an issue with the server and the SPF. These are some things that people don't normally know about, right? You may know about the content of your email, but you don't know about the technology. This will tell you if the technology behind your email is up to par so that you will get delivered. And then here is the MX record. So there's an issue with that as well. You can see here, is your message safe and well formatted? Here we got a high score. But you'll notice that it's not, the deliverability of your email is not all about just the content. There's more that goes on regarding this. It also looks at some of the top blacklists. And then your broken links. Broken links, bad links will have a negative effect on your reputation and deliverability, right? So I'm going to go ahead and refresh. Let's see if I can't show you one more system. Oops. I can go in here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this one more time. This is, again, the email address that you need to send it to. Don't forward the email from your Outlook to this system. What you really want to do is send it directly from your email system to that email address. Because if you forward it, it's not checking your technology backend. It's only checking your content. And you really need to check both. Okay, so I think that's been sent. Let's check it again. Now I'm checking an e-commerce related email. Let's see what it looks like.
While Chris is getting that done, for you who's listening, what Chris was talking about checking both ends is you want to check the IP address server that's sending the email where actually it's coming from versus your Outlook. That's why it's important that you do that from your email engine, not your particular email service that you're using on your laptop or desktop.
And you can see here, you get a totally different, look at listed on a blacklist. And it'll tell you right there, spam cannibal. Okay. Number 2, Spam Assassin has some negative hits on it. So you can take a look up. You can read about each one of these specific things. The body contains some errors. Okay. So this is a tool that I think is very helpful. Now there's another one called Return Path SenderScore. Return Path happens to be, I think, the biggest and most reputable email delivery service in the United States. The challenge is if you're a startup, it can be pretty expensive. But if you go to their SenderScore area, you can type in the domain name of your website. Give me a domain name that I should type in.
There you go.
I think you need to put this will only give you a partial report.
And that's because it's free, right, Chris? The partial report?
Yep. But it does give a pretty accurate representation of the overall score. The digging into the specific problems might be a bigger issue. So, oops. Didn't like that IP address, probably because it's sending from a different location. So let's come up with another one. Takes a quick second. If you are having problems with your deliverability, Return Path is a company that you can, shoot, now it's giving me errors all over the place. It's probably taking too many resources. Just ran this one earlier this morning, so it should be fine.
Looks like it's having an issue, Chris. It's given the same CID range error.
Yeah, and I looked up all of these earlier this morning, so I can't find anything. Maybe it's down. That's the challenge with doing live demos, huh?
Especially when we don't control the third-party software.
Nope. Yeah. Looks like maybe it's down itself.
Yep.
All right. Well, I can't show you what it looks like, but what I can tell you is that it gives you a score, and then it tells you why it gave you the score. So each internet service provider, like a Yahoo and others, assigns a score to the probability that this company has a good trust factor, if you will. And if it trusts you, then it will deliver the email to its inbox. If it doesn't trust you, then it may or may not deliver it to the inbox. And that's kind of how that works. I can try to look at
why this is important, why Chris is doing that. You just think about it. We talked about in the beginning, not only is your score important, but think about it. If you're only sending out 1,000 emails, you're a startup company, or even a couple hundred for that matter. And 20 to 30% of your emails are not getting to the inbox, and you're getting a negative score, it's going to really affect everything in your company. So you think about this, it's going to affect your marketing campaign. If you're trying to prove a funnel results, it's going to affect that, which in turn could affect your slide deck for raising more money, which in turn can affect your capability of even getting more money. So email marketing, which is a great form of marketing, as Chris and I mentioned, not only B2B but B2C, but especially the B2B guys, you're going to be in a world of hurt if you don't take all these precautions and look at these scores as you go to build your company and start building metrics to use to raise money. Because let's face it, the metrics, not just the idea of your company, is really where most companies are successful in raising many rounds of funds, is because they can prove they have traction, and then they can prove they can scale. And so those are key factors. And so this is one piece of that whole equation. So I thought I'd wrap that in so you kind of all get your arms around how important what we're showing today, these tools and why we dig into them, can affect your overall company and the growth of your company long-term and short-term. Anything to add to that, Chris, while you're typing away?
No, thank you for talking. So I signed in. You can sign in for free as well. There's a free and a paid version. What I did is I went over and I grabbed an actual IP address. If you do not know the IP address of the emails of where it's being sent from, you can ask your email service provider, like Green Rope or MailChimp or
GoDaddy.
GoDaddy, exactly. Yep. And they will provide it for you. Oops.
Now they want vehicle.
I know.
Vehicle. Boy, these are, talk about security, huh?
Oh, jeez. Storefronts. Man, they make it difficult. Ah, jeez. Let's see if they ask for another one. Oh, gosh, really? Okay, now this is ridiculous. Oh God, they don't want me in. With an apartment building.
Hard to tell if that's an apartment building. Anything with a building in it.
Okay, they just don't want me in now.
They're thinking you're a bot, Chris. You're acting just like a bot.
I probably am. Okay, one more try.
There we go.
I just want to show you what this looked like.
That's too funny. You probably could never simulate you're a robot in your lifetime except for then.
Okay, so you can see it's kind of got cut out there, but we have a sender rapport of a score of 100, so that's pretty darn good. It tells you the impact of the score, low on blacklist, low on complaints, low on infrastructure, low impact, that is, et cetera, et cetera. So it gives you an idea. You can get red marks here, and when you do, that's when you need to be concerned. So this is, again, a free service to find out the reputation of your IP address or where you're sending the email from. So that one, plus the spam test on Mail-tester, are two good tools that you can use to use.
So kind of in summary, you know, what I'd like to leave listeners with, Chris, is these are very creative tools that you definitely should use, especially in the startup community, and especially when your lists are small, because you want to have a good reputation. You want to build your company based on a good reputation. And like I was mentioning earlier, all this ties into your entire company's success, because this is part of marketing. And let's face it, marketing numbers that you build in your funnel, we've talked about funnels many a times, is what you're going to leverage in your pitch decks, what you're going to leverage internally, what your advisors are going to talk to you about, and also going to be a piece of how you raise money. And so this could make or break, just email alone, your company. So it's something you want to take very seriously on using these tools to keep it clean from the very beginning. And so it's very, very, very important.
So we've talked in the past about making lists or creating lists of emails. The second part you talked about is validation that the lists that you have are really good emails and will really go. We haven't really talked about those tools. Then we talked about even if you have a great list that's validated and you send it out, it may not go there because of how people are looking at you, how customers are responding to you, errors in emails. So you also have to check your server, the servers you're going through, and how people are reacting to those servers.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good summary, Eric. And it really shows this is not a simple issue. It's complex, and it requires a lot of knowledge in a startup from a tool perspective, marketing tool perspective. And this is not something all your IT teams would know necessarily, because it's not code. It's actually tools that are out there, third party, that Chris and I have run across over time to get these things done by having the issues. We both, like I said, we both have been blacklisted before, not on purpose, but it happens, just like you saw in that last test. So it's very key, as Eric mentioned. We've showed you the tools how to build a list. Now we've gone to the far end, showed you how to make sure once you've checked your list and everything, which we haven't shown those tools yet, but how to get deliverability, which is the big key. If it doesn't get delivered, then you have a much diminished chance of getting your marketing campaign to work or your message across, whatever the call to action may be.
And the key is it's real money, because if
Correct.
your email is not going out, it doesn't matter if you paid a lot of money to build a list yourself or to buy one. It doesn't matter if you've taken a lot of money to train people how to use marketing automation, like in your Green Rope or HubSpot or something. That could all be going from decreased money to actually nothing. It could be so bad that it could destroy lots of campaigns.
Yeah, we always say that email marketing is your burning money, so you better make sure you burn it right.
So do you guys advocate having a couple different solutions in case one domain or one IP gets burned? Do you have a backup that you can use? Is that a strategy
Well, it is a strategy for startups. I don't always recommend it. I think if you just use the tools we mentioned, usually you come up with a pretty good score. You can fix your score right away. You usually won't get blacklisted unless you're really being cheesy on your offer. So you just stay away from just really, I'm not going to mention industries, but just cheesy offers. We all know what that means: fake and false offers, fake guarantees, and just be legit with what you send. And use the tools we mentioned, you're usually pretty well off. To try to do what the big companies do costs a lot of money. That's where you're building dual websites, buying multiple IP addresses and servers, and sending them out. This is why Constant Contact, MailChimp, and a lot of the email companies have these in place for their companies. And so by using just a Green Rope doesn't give you that, like you mentioned, not just a CRM, but when you use MailChimp, you get some of this built in, but not all of it. And that's why Chris and I use these other tools to augment the things that a MailChimp or a Constant Contact won't do. And so it's one, building your list is the front end. We talked about that piece. Now we're talking about the deliverability piece, which Constant Contact's not going to give you either. So this is why you need these other tools.
Great. So the final, as always, you're a startup. When do you pay attention to this? What stage of company? How do you know when this is important to look at?
Well, I'll give you my tech from day one. The moment you start building an email list is when you want to start looking at this. The credibility, it's easier to clean up stuff when it's small before your list starts getting into the thousands, and it gets much tougher to clean up. So if you start this right from the very, very beginning and understand this and either do it yourself or hire someone to use these tools and do it for you so you understand what's happening, that's your best bet as a startup. If you've already got your company going and you're down the road a ways, I would say that you need to get on this right away to find out what your score is, because your bad campaign results may be related right to two of these tools, and you can find out really quickly. Chris, your take? Anything else to add?
Absolutely. No, you nailed it.
Yep. So I think that's it, Eric, in a nutshell. Those are the time to use the tools. Right when you start, if you haven't used them to date, then I'd get on it right away. I wouldn't wait. The worst that could happen is you could find out you have a great score and things are fine. That would not be such a bad thing to find out.
Yep.
So you can catch Tool versus Tool on our YouTube, Startup Show San Diego channel, all one word, on our website, startupshowsd.com. You can get it on podcasts at Startup Show SD. And as always, you can catch Randy and Chris on Marketing Mondays, which you can find on the EvoNexus page or on meetup.com. It's one of the Vine meetups, and Marketing Mondays. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, one last thing is you're going to catch us. We're leading several seminars live, face-to-face at San Diego Startup Week, which starts the third week of June. You can go to sandiegostartup.com, and I believe within days you'll start seeing all the sessions posted. And Chris and I are leading several sessions on the growth track to do with sales and marketing. So we got several sessions in there for seed companies, Series A companies, as well as how to even hire. I'm leading a session on how to hire salespeople from scratch when you got to get your company going. So you can catch us there as well. So I want to thank all of you. Eric, thank you for helping us here, and I'll let you close from there.
I'll see you at Startup Week also. We will be actually filming from our TV studio at WeWork. And you'll also see me doing some content marketing and momentum planning talks. So startup San Diego. San Diego Startup Week.com is where you want to go to find out more about San Diego Startup Week, and you'll see lots of Randy and Chris will be capturing all the video we can there. So thanks everybody tuning in, and see you next time.
All right, have a great week, everybody. See you later.
Yeah.